Where's your gavel?
You are live.
Thank you.
Make sure you're speaking into your
I call this meeting to order at 5:14 p.m. on May 19th, 2025. Welcome, everybody, to the Scotts Valley Community Advisory Committee, and how about a beautiful spring day? I'll start with the roll call. Jody Attic.
Jody's here.
Okay, Joe Coble.
Here.
Jarrett.
Yeah.
Greg is here, Cornelia is here. We have everybody's present. We do have an established quorum. Call the next item is to move for acceptance of the agenda as posted. We have, so do we have a motion for that?
Yeah, I move that we accept it, our agenda,
Second?
posted.
Third? Okay, so you, Cornelia seconded. Discussion, anybody? Not hearing any. The motion is, the agenda is adopted for this meeting. It is now time for public comment for any person to speak up for 3 minutes on a subject not on the agenda. Council may not substantially discuss the item, or all we could do is make listen and make consideration for a future agenda item. I recognize when you approach the lectern, if you would say your name and who you represent.
Hello, Scotts Valley. Margot Kambara. Just wanted to let you know about a Lake Pillsbury Town Hall on Wednesday, May 28th, from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the Soper Reese Theater, 275 South Main in Lakeport. And at this event, there will be two of our Lake County supervisors, E.J. Crandall and Bruno Sabatier. There will be two representatives from the Pillsbury Alliance, the mayor of Cloverdale, Lake Pillsbury Fire Chief, and the Mendocino Farm Bureau representative. Thank you.
Margot, can you repeat what the event was called?
It's a Lake Pillsbury Town Hall.
Okay, Lake Pillsbury Town Hall. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I know right now there's a meeting down at City Hall that's discussing the fire safe councils and so forth. And I saw on the agenda that there were we were up for a proposal in there. I recognize Sky. Go ahead, Sky.
Well, thank you. So, yeah, Sky Hoyt, and I just want to follow up. I sent a letter in, an emailed letter, and I'm very confused about how those communications are supposed to happen. But the point of my letter is that with all this federal confusion about funding and staffing, we really need to pay attention to how the maintenance of the headwaters of Scotts Creek is going to be attended to. And I don't mean to conclude that that's going to be good or bad, but we do know that we've dealt with, we had the issue of they were going to put in all these bike trails and all this, and you know, so we know the flows that we get in Scotts Creek, you know, peak flows in the winter from rainfall. And also, those of us who look at Scotts Creek, we see that there's a tremendous amount of erosion in Scotts Creek, to the point that every time there's a heavy rain, and it really doesn't back off through the winter, is that we get water that looks like chocolate milk. We've got a soil erosion problem in the upwaters, the upland areas of Scotts Creek, that's huge. So one of my concerns is if we lose funding up there, and I don't even know who's working up there now. I mean, I have no idea what the status quo is, but if we lose staffing to monitor that watershed, we could have a huge disaster on our hands. In fact, we got one right now, but we're all accepting it as status quo, kind of like, oh, well, it's just erosion just happens. So anyway, I'm just calling our attention to that we need to stay on top of this somehow. I still don't even know if it's public record now, if those workers are working or they've been laid off or what. You know, we get a lot of confusion about this. So there's huge changes happening, and they do have a very direct effect on the water quality and quantity in Scotts Creek, and more the erosion in Scotts Creek.
So, Sky, to question, has it been monitored in the past and who's been monitoring it and sharing the information?
Well, and that's a really good question. Those gauges, and I think there's been something about the gauges and whether those are gonna be monitored and maintained. And there's so much confusion about which branch of government, but there is one of the gauges, the one that's up there, the one on the Green Bridge, I call it the Green Bridge gauge. It has a sensor for turbidity, I think is the term they use, and that would be the amount of soil that's flowing in the water. So to me, I look at that, and that's like a way to quickly check what's the erosion level today. We don't call it that, but that's how much soil is flowing out of the uplands into the creek. And it goes, every time there's a rain, it goes way up and then it comes down. So, I don't know, will those gauges be maintained and all that? That would be one way to look at the erosion part of it. Did that answer your question, Greg?
Yeah, basically, I'm just trying to say what, if you happen to know any history of who's been proactive in that area, and it's pretty much what we've discussed, the gauges and other things like that. So we may have to do some further searching.
Yeah, and I don't know how long that turbidity function's been on that, I call it the Green Bridge gauge, and then there's the Eichhoff Bridge gauge. There's two functioning gauges
Right.
on Scotts Creek. On the Green Bridge, if everyone knows what I mean by that, and then it's painted green, that's why I call it the Green Bridge. And then down at the Eichhoff Bridge, there's another gauge. I don't believe the Eichhoff Bridge has turbidity monitoring. It's mainly flow rate and levels and all that. I don't know, but it's a scary deal to think that, quite frankly, I'd say there's an ecological disaster happening in the upwaters already. It's messed up. If you take soil erosion seriously, you look at that, you say, this is terrible. And if we're gonna say whatever staffing is up there looking at it, we're gonna lose that staffing, particularly if it's happening in secret, what's gonna happen then? I don't know.
That's my question. Maybe there's no staffing particularly assigned to that. We're not losing anything because there's nothing to lose. These are questions that we have to look at, who's got control of what's happening.
Well, the dirt bike trails that were proposed. What was it, 49 miles or 64 miles of dirt bike trails?
On Cow Mountain?
Yeah, in the recreation area. Now, I'm pretty sure all of that would have flowed into the watershed. And I remember when we were meeting down there at the city hall, we had that guy come on the Zoom meeting, and I said, hey, you got to stop that. There's already too much erosion in Scotts Creek. The goal should be not a bit more, never again, nothing that will cause erosion. Just zero. Easy. It's a really simple say. No more, nothing like that, unless you can prove that it won't increase erosion. So, I don't know if there's, my fear is if there's nobody up there monitoring it, keeping track of it, and people go out and play with their dirt bikes and they think, oh, we can play up there, we can do whatever we want, it may get worse.
And so that's
Is
my
that-
question, and maybe nobody to do it.
Wait, is that BLM land?
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is. I don't know. Jared, are you hip to, how much is BLM? And it gets really confusing to me whose land is what, but
Oh, I would say,
At the headwaters.
90% of it's BLM.
yeah.
And the good news is they aren't yet losing staff, but that doesn't mean they're doing their job completely because they're understaffed anyway. So anyway, it would be good to check in with them and see, whether they've got staff that's actually focused on erosion sediment issues and what.
Can we invite the BLM person to our meeting again?
Let's kind of nail down who would be best to get.
I think what we should do is move this to next month's agenda to see what we want to put on there and look at what we can find out prior to that. And said, because we don't want to, since we're not taking action on this, we're discussing. Let's move on and put this at the end of the meeting. Do we want to get BLM here? Who do we contact? What are the questions we can discuss?
Yeah.
Thank you, Sky, I appreciate it. Okay, let's move on. Anybody else? No, not seeing anybody else in there.
If the gentleman here in the glasses, if he's going to speak, can we turn your microphone just towards you?
Oh, okay, very good. Yeah, we got to remember to speak into the mic, loud and clear.
Before you go on, you might want to ask if anyone in the public.
We don't have anybody
Okay.
on Zoom.
Thank you.
Let's see.
Okay, well, let's go on, consider at council business, consideration of the draft minutes
April 21st.
for April 21st. I have them in front of you. I noticed that there are a few spelling areas that we can correct, but besides that, can we have a motion to adopt those unless there's discussion of additions, deletions, or corrections?
Anything jump out for anybody on corrections?
I looked at them earlier at home, I don't have a problem, but,
I don't see any problem with it.
okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the April 21st minutes, meeting minutes. Anybody? Jody approves, makes motion to approve the,
Second.
and second by Cornelia to approve the April meeting minutes and post them. Thank you very much. Old business B on the calendar. Ongoing input to Lake County General Plan and local plans. And Margot, I'm sure, has some information for us. Thank you, Margot.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Scotts Valley Community Advisory Council, for your March 17th letter of support to Lake County Board of Supervisors and Community Development Director Turner on preserving agricultural lands. At an earlier SVCAC meeting, I informed you of a situation in the Kelseyville Area Plan region. Specifically, CDD claims that at the last general plan update in 2008, there was an error. Lands near Lamson Field, zoned agricultural, should have been zoned industrial. When this error was brought to the attention of the Kelseyville Local Area Plan Advisory Committee and the General Plan Advisory Committee, I asked for the documentation related to this error. The response to my request, the documentation may not be available. Because changing the zoning from ag to industrial is one of the sure ways to take ag lands out of production forever, this decision should be taken seriously. If documentation of the General Plan 2008 error can't be produced, I recommend that the zoning for these parcels remain agricultural. The proposed correction involves 40 contiguous acres of agricultural land near Lamson Field. And if documentation of the error is found, I recommend revisiting the decision to rezone these parcels. The reason? The community expressed strong support for preserving ag lands and open spaces in the recent general plan surveys. The decision to rezone contradicts the community's wish to retain the rural nature and the small town feel of Lake County. At present, this zoning change is under review. My request to this body is please consider a letter of support to retain the current zoning for these parcels. As part of due diligence, we should require documentation of the error that supports this change in zoning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Margot? Would you know whether there's already a lot of areas zoned industrial south of the airport anyway that's not being used for anything? Just thinking, yeah.
That I don't know. I'd have to look at the parcel viewer to scan to see below or south of the Lamson Field to see what the zoning is.
Yeah.
South of the airport? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought there was quite a bit that was already zone industrial there that isn't actually being utilized as such.
Well, all of them. Oh, I'm sorry. Tom Lasik, south of Lamson Field, There is one building, and I forgot the name of the building. It's Margo, the one that they're coming up for a new permit.
Oh, the name, well, the new. The new project in that area is Esther Formula.
Yeah, and that one's actually west of the airport,
Mhm.
more or less. But everything south of that is it's either rural or agricultural vineyards on Highland Springs Road, all the way to Highland Springs Recreation Area. So on the east side of Highland Springs Road, that's vineyard it's vineyard agriculture all the way down to the park. And then on the other side are, I want to say RL5, where you can have like 5 acres, or Ag 5, I forget the term, but there is no industrial activity going on in that area. The only thing that might be is that one place that's west.
At the airport.
Yeah, at the airport.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know the old shower door factory is, built and utilized. I thought maybe there was parcels adjacent to it. Do you have any idea on that, Brad? My thing I'm driving to is, do we
The old
have?
Workrite Products, which was the shower door company, is now being used by Esther Formula. It's a manufacturing facility. As I understand, there are some parcels adjacent to it. I don't know what the zoning is without checking.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, my point is, if we already have open industrial land available, it's just another reason to look at, why should we be taking ag land out of ag zoning?
I
Yes.
can look while the meeting's going and follow up later.
Thank you.
Yes, Margot?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I may add, so I've looked at the Kelseyville area plan for that area near Lamson Field. There are known drainage problems. So the people working on the Kelseyville area plan in 2008 recommended that the land not be, if there's going to be commercial uses there, that it be restricted to airport industry, and that traffic was another concern. So they didn't want some kind of, any kind of business that would draw a lot of traffic to that area. The other is, because drainage is a huge concern, that is a problem that needs to be dealt with if there's going to be development in that area. Thank you.
Well, they're lucky drainage is not a problem. I wish I could say that over here. Anyway. Okay, let's go to item 2 under old business. Ongoing valley drainage and fire season prep discussion. Okay, we've heard a little bit about the concern about the drainage, and from our first speaker on this. Season and fire plan prep, this council, I don't know how much effect we can continue to share with our citizens out here, but the new law in California is to eliminate flammable vegetation. The governor says vegetation, but it has to be flammable. Will it burn? If it's green and doesn't burn, but flammable vegetation 5 feet away from your structure. And that's the new law that's come in there. So look at your bushes, trees, or whatever around your house at 5 feet. It's supposed to be eliminated. That could be a costly type of thing. A less than a 1/4 inch mesh screen in your openings and foundations and so forth to not allow embers to get through there and then to burn. And of course, the 30-foot clearance of defensible space around your property. And depending on if an inspector comes out, there'd be more. I know, for example, the insurance company of my neighbors next door came out and told them they had to replace their roof. It was too old. If they wanted insurance, it's too old. They felt it was a fire hazard, so they had to replace the roof. So we have all sorts of influences on what can we do in the valley. Cornelia brought in the address signs today for a number of people, that if we could get people to start putting those up on the road where first responders can see them easily, it's going to make a lot quicker response without equipment lost. It's going to be much easier, less stressful on the first responders driving there, trying to look for it. And so I think we should really start a campaign of trying to get people to realize if we can get this whole area to put address signs up there that are easy, it's going to start to be a model effort of what we can do. The next thing is to get a campaign going about how do you harden or protect your homes. For example, gutters, roofs, all these things that can be cleaned off. Trees within 10 inches of the roof and all this cleaned up. All these things we can do, and I think we need to start asking CAL FIRE and the fire district to be more proactive in bringing this out constantly. We see it everywhere else, especially on the news right now. We have fires that are burning from 50 to 1,000 acres, and in Arizona, they got one lot larger. So fire season is already starting to turn in Southern California, and we have had some small fires around here over by the Robinson Rancho Casino that burned. So when we talk about fire preparation, we want to look at ideas on how we can get the responsible parties to be proactive and trying to heighten the education and severity of what people should be doing to clear their property. I don't know how to go about that, council, unless we can ask and invite speakers to come in here about what are they doing, CAL FIRE, the fire district, BLM, and ask them what are they doing for a fire plan, a fire prevention, or fire effort in here. I know that, for example, that we have a great potential of a fire being damaging to this valley up coming up the grade out of there in Lakeport. If that property takes, and they don't clean up there, if that property takes up that first 5 acres, is there going to be urban renewal when all those mobile homes and cars burn down, and we get the right wind, it's going to continue down Scotts Valley Road in between that and the freeway, taking out a lot of homes. And so I have ideas. I've asked about putting a fuel break in there. I know we can't get fuel reduction or our laws on certain lands that are federal. And so we have to, I'd say, we need to look at those scenarios and see what we can do to be proactive. Here again, it's getting the word out and getting people to realize if the fire happens, you're not going to be facing a root canal where your home's burning down. If you took action and you go into your dentist and get your teeth cleaned, you're not going to have those root canals, and this is the time to do it.
I beg to differ.
Okay?
I'm kidding.
So anyway, I would like to see this council consider trying to bring in governmental responders, such as first responders, as far as BLM, the fire district, CAL FIRE, and the Sheriff's Office of Emergency Services.
Okay, we'll talk about that in the agenda.
And we could, yeah, as I say, so I'd like to have our council think about that, putting it on the agenda and making time for the future to start doing that. I know we're supported by NeighborFest, which is a good thing, but I think we need to be proactive and hopefully get more people here or on the PEG TV to observe it. All right, I said my piece. Anybody else have anything else about fire prevention? I don't feel strongly about it. I feel it's necessary because it's just
Totally agree.
time. It's just time, a matter of time until it's going to happen.
The RCD let me know just right before this meeting that their grant with the big fire tanks that they had proposed for
Yeah.
us fell through.
Okay.
And so we have to, keep our ears and eyes open for other opportunities.
Well, like a water tender, yeah.
Yeah, well, no, they just can't, that whole thing
Right,
got scrapped.
okay, that's,
The whole grant got scrapped. The government has defunded almost everything that we've been trying to do. NeighborFest will be on July 13th, and hopefully we can get all those people that you just mentioned to attend. That would be a good thing.
okay. The chair recognizes Sky.
Yeah, thank you. So you briefly mentioned the 0 to 5 foot zone,
Yes,
which is getting a lot of play in the press in Berkeley. But I think we need, if we're gonna get serious about that, we've gotta get some good information out there, really defining where it applies. And also, I mean, and how is anybody, is there gonna be help for people to achieve that? For people who don't understand, and it's really hard to grasp, they wanna go 0 to 5 feet from the house and have absolutely nothing flammable. So if, you know, I look at my house and I mean, I gotta take out the landscaping, I got, you know, I mean, I got a big 50-year-old juniper tree there. I mean, it's pretty huge, the changes that this can amount to. And then I remember going to a meeting over there at Mendocino College, a guy had a book about this, and he was saying, well, one of the things is you can't leave your broom out there. I mean, it's not just your landscape. You can't have any items out there that are flammable. It requires a total rethinking of this little area around the house. So, I mean, I think, first off, I mean, it's just such a huge concept. And to me, 5 feet is a little small, but I get the idea. I'm not fighting that it's a good idea, but I think to convey that to people and to get people to take it seriously is going to take some real attention to details and not just glossing over, oh, the 0 to 5 foot zone, and we have to do that. And as I understand it, in Berkeley, I've read some of these articles because I grew up in Berkeley, you know, or part of my childhood in Berkeley, and they've only got part of the city limits is in it now. And they've got a phase-in thing, and it's never going into the flatlands, I think. So, I mean, I think people read that kind of information and they think, oh, it's not happening here. You know, so I think if this is serious, that 0 to 5 feet is going to happen here, there needs to be serious education on it. And I think you're right, we do need, but there's so many things that you just rattled off, the average person's going to shut down. It's too
Right.
much
yeah,
information.
I agree. And
You know what
Sky,
the other thing is? I'm sorry. A car is flammable, right? People park their car in front of their house all the time. Nobody ever mentions, don't leave your car parked within 5 feet. But they do, like you said, anything that's green is not considered flammable unless it's a juniper or rosemary, right?
well, you also got people that stack firewood.
Well, that's all.
And no matter, but some of it's close, some of it's not, but that's another hazard, like a broom or eaves or whatever. That we can go into a whole list of things that you should clear around there. My point is that we have these Firewise communities, and it sounds great. They're doing Firewise, but tell me which Firewise community has a model neighborhood that's really starting to comply with what it takes to have a defensible space. I listen to the Cobb Firewise, I listen to other ones, but I don't see the cement results of saying that people are complying and understanding this. It's a challenge. It's a big challenge.
It's a work in progress.
So is 0 to 5 the law in Lake County now? I mean,
It's,
I'm as confused as can be about it.
state SRA, state responsibility under the Department of Forestry. That excludes federal lands and city or other governmental boundaries. But in the state responsibility and supposedly in local responsibility now, it's supposed to be a law that's being enforced. Besides the 30-foot clearance around your structure of flammable vegetation. And during the winter, it's not flammable, it's green, but during the summer, it is. When you say flammable, it needs to burn.
So this building here, I mean, see, all that state responsibility, all that's just, you know, in one ear, out the other. I
Yeah.
don't understand all that. I know it's your lingo, you grew up with it and worked with it, but, I mean, is this building, does it have 0 to 5?
This is not safe.
Yeah.
But is it part of that law? Is it
Yeah,
current law that's
this
supposed to
building
be
here,
0?
anything in the valley here should have a 5-foot clearance around the structure.
I think it's as of 2026, right?
You know, I think it is, but I think that they're trying to educate people to start preparing and doing it now.
Yeah,
I think
that's a
the
big deal.
enforcement's gonna come later, and we've never really enforced the 30-foot one. We don't have enough staff to do that.
Okay, so, but I think there is a huge education thing to happen here. And it is right now, the information coming, and I'm trying to pay attention, it's confusing.
Well, when they did this, when they looked at this 5-foot clearance thing, they did studies at Berkeley and some other institutes showing the fire burning up, and when it started and got in within 5 feet of the house, the radiant heat and the ashes and the firebrands from that, it really, they said this is really causing the fires, the houses to catch fire easier. So this is why the campaign's out there.
Thank you.
Okay, next subject we'll go to, unless there's any other comment on that, we'll move to new business. Discussion on Scotts Valley Water Conservation District. I invite our 4th District Supervisor, Brad Rasmussen, to present this item.
Thank you to the council for the time. Yes, this is going to be a discussion on the Scotts Valley Water Conservation District. And actually, one of the directors, I believe, you're the Division 3 director, Tom?
Yeah.
Tom Nickel is here. He's one of the elected directors for that 3-member board. But just to give you some overview on this district, the Scotts Valley Water Conservation District was formed by petition in September of 1972 by the parcel owners and/or voters of about 100 parcels within the Scotts Valley area. They took a petition to the Board of Supervisors requesting the formation of the Scotts Valley Water Conservation District by special election. The Board of Supervisors did approve that petition and approved the special election, which was then held in October of 1972, where the voters by majority did vote to form the Conservation District, and at that time they also elected the first 3 directors for the Board of Directors for that district. The reasons stated in the petition for the formation of this district were as follows. One was we can best conserve and enhance our water supply and riparian rights by joining together in such a district. Number 2, projects now proposed, such as the Scotts Creek Dam, and interim measures such as flash dams and the preservation of vital water-bearing gravels in the creek beds can better be promoted by group endeavor than by individual action. Number 3, a district at the grassroots covering such a natural basin as the area proposed, which is the Scotts Valley District, would provide a legal entity for governmental agencies to consult with in the solution of mutual area and water and flood control problems and projects. Without such a district, agreements arrived with individuals could adversely affect the far greater majority of the properties involved. Number 4, it is not the desire of the growers to resort to legal action to preserve our water rights with the city of Lakeport if mutual problems can be resolved through discussion. However, without an authorized body, that is the water district, the threat of individual and/or class action will remain. Each grower will be forced to act in his own interest to protect his riparian rights and the value of his property. Thus, a district is vital to the resolution of present water problems if an understanding other than court action is to be reached. Number 5, looking to the future, a district could enable the area to act in concert to resolve problems of available water and its distribution in the area. It could also be effective in matters of flood control, which with valley subsidence is becoming a major drainage problem. Number 6, both increasing available water in the summer months and reducing the flooding in the winter and spring could be done better by a district working cooperatively with existing governmental agencies. Here, the district would be in effect an instrument for local, state, and federal agencies to work with in resolving present and future water control needs. So that was the petition that was brought forward, both to the Board of Supervisors and the voters. And before I go on, I just want to show you, this is a map of the Scotts Valley Water Conservation District, which is divided into Division 1, 2, and 3. Again, it's about 100 parcels within the valley here in Scotts Valley. It's not everything that's considered Scotts Valley. It's just these 100 parcels. If you see here, like over on Hendricks Road and Hendricks Creek, anything in the white is not included in the district. And I can show that to the audience as well, so you get an idea. Kind of like, and if anybody wants to look at it, they can take a look. Then I'll pass it around if anybody wants to look at it. So as shown on the map, the 100 parcels are separated into 3 divisions. Division directors are called to be elected by the voters of the district every 4 years. The Division 1 director position has been vacant since 2015 and must stand for election in November of 25, should there be any applicants, for a 2-year term expiring in December of 27. Division 2 director must stand for election also in November of 25. That is currently Rhonda Armstrong, I believe her last name is. Is that correct, Tom?
Yes.
And then the District 3 Division Director, which is Mr. Nickel, who's here, his term, I believe, expires in December of 27. When this first went to the voters and the Board of Supervisors, there was an initial review and a public hearing by the Local Area Formation Commission, commonly known as LAFCO. That's the agency that authorizes special districts and other things like that to form when the district was created. But in the last 53 years, there's been no other known municipal service reviews that I'm able to find of the district's work, which is not uncommon. Usually LAFCO at some point will do some kind of municipal service review. The district does hold approximately $25,000 that's in the county treasury. There are currently no records found to confirm how that money was generated, except a record that the Board of Supervisors loaned the district $815 when it was created, with an order in 1972 that it be repaid to the county when sufficient assessments were received. I did find a record that $815 has been repaid to the county at some point years ago. But no other records of how any of the tax revenue was assessed or received by the county. The only other ongoing account activity is ongoing interest earned in that money, and then small payments to the registrar of voters for election costs when those come up every 2 or 4 years. It stands to reason that the $25,000 was generated by tax assessments in the district, but again, there's really no records for that at this point. I think it makes sense that the district be reviewed to determine if it should continue or if it can continue to provide service to this district in the future. Those kind of decisions on whether or not a district gets dissolved or guidance on how it provides services are at the hands of LAFCO. And there's several ways that a LAFCO review can be initiated. One of them is by 10% of the property owners that own 10% of the or greater of the value. So if you have 10% of the property owners of the highest value of those parcels, then they could initiate a review. Also, 3 or more registered voters could initiate a review, or the Board of Supervisors could initiate a review, without the voters or the landowners. Some of the considerations that would come into play, particularly if the registered voters were to try to initiate something like that, would include whether or not the district in the past 3 years has provided services or facilities of a substantial benefit to the area residents, the landowners or property of the district, whether or not the district has levied or fixed and collected taxes or assessments for services or other charges, and has it expended any proceeds for district purposes during the preceding past year. I'm not currently aware of business being conducted by the district or whether or not they've had any public meetings in the past couple of years. If for some reason that district didn't continue, what would happen is the county would become the successor agency to wind up the affairs of that district, and they would also have the direction on what happened to any assets such as the $25,000, which would basically have to be spent on a project that benefited the district footprint. So it could be for flood control or water conservation or anything that benefited that area. That's how that would be handled. The other thing is that the Scotts Valley Advisory Council and the Lake County Water Conservation District also could perform or advocate for some of those original concerns as to why this district was formed in '72, such as flood control concerns, water issue concerns, and things like that. So, and a lot of those remain concerns today. So I wanted to bring this discussion to this council so that the word was out in the local community that, I was taking a look at this district and trying to figure out if, we should have a review by LAFCO, and that's kind of the direction that I'm going. I've talked to Mr. Nickel about it as to whether or not the district is even still pertinent to handle business in this area, but again, I wanted to just throw it out as a discussion so the residents in this area, and I know not all of you probably may not even live in the district footprint. I know some of you probably do, but for example, I don't think Jody or Cornelia are actually in that footprint because it's just a certain area of Scotts Valley. So that's my presentation on it. I did want to give Mr. Nickel a chance to make any comments if he wished, or if not, that's okay too. Or if the council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. Before we...
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah.
Supervisor Rasmussen, thank you very much. I wasn't aware of this. It immediately brings to mind two problems or concerns I have about maintenance in Scotts Valley. First of all, the levee that goes alongside Scotts Valley Creek. So it's shared by, I don't know how many, a few dozen property owners.
Right.
And I suppose we all take some care not to damage the levee and maybe even maintain it. So I'm thinking about putting some more trees in there to kind of hold the side of the levee together and it won't erode. I hope that's the right thing to do, but I'd be happy to have somebody smarter than me advising me about how to maintain the levee. And it might be a thing where mutual action might help us all out. So have one bulldozer one day come in and improve the levee along the whole stretch. So and the other one is the famous roadside ditch that runs along Scotts Valley Road. Another thing which affects all the landowners there, and I guess we're all supposed to do something about our own area of ditch, although I'm concerned about downstream. If the downstream guys don't clear out their area, there's no reason for me to clear out mine, because there's no water to go, and there's no place for my water to go. So I'm wondering, does that make any sense to you? Are those two maintenance items, do they seem appropriate to you for treatment by the Water Conservation District?
Well, I think that's open for discussion. I'm not an expert on how those levees work and who created them. It's been my understanding that the county has taken the position that they're not responsible for the maintenance of those levees.
Right.
But as far as the history of them and other questions, I think those are questions that I can't answer right at this time without doing further research. But notwithstanding that, those are important concerns in this area. How the levees function, the flood control, those are all critical, important items that need to be continuously looked at and hopefully figured out what the right answers are. And I'm sorry I don't have a better answer, but I don't know all the ins and outs of all that.
It just strikes me that it might not be a county-wide problem, and maybe the county should not be quite the level of organization that needs to get involved, but some group a little more locally, where we're all concerned about it, it would be appropriate for us all to be involved.
Right.
Hopefully getting some assistance from the county, but nevertheless, I mean, I can understand why the county said, oh, this only applies to you 2 dozen or few dozen homeowners, we shouldn't have to pay for that. I can appreciate that, although I kind of wish they wouldn't have that attitude. But anyway, so the Water Conservation District sounds like it is local. We all would share, or many of us, many people within the Water Conservation District would share those problems. And the question is, it's maintenance, so thank goodness before we get into big horrible catastrophes, maintenance might be a nice efficient way of taking care of this. So, anyway, thanks, I appreciate your information.
And I'm only aware of which I went over the reasons for the formation of this district. I don't know, I can't say that district would have any responsibility or even ability to work on the levees, for example. See what I'm saying? I don't know, Mr. Nickel would maybe be better able to address that, knowing more about the actual function of the district than I do, but I don't think it was created to necessarily, and I don't even know if all these levees are within that boundary without doing research. But
Sorry to interrupt. Rhonda emailed me. I just forwarded to you. She said I could forward it to you. Rhonda Armstrong emailed me her history, memory of it.
Yeah.
And I forwarded it to you just now, the email.
Okay.
And my brief reading of it shows that the 25,000 came from assessments to property owners during this time ongoing.
That's the belief, but there's no
Yeah.
confirmed record.
Right. So there should be a record somewhere. So hopefully she'll find it. So we'll see.
Yeah.
That's,
I mean, the only other possibility with those kind of assessments would be returning money to the people that paid it,
right.
which is maybe all different people now from
Totally
53
different.
years ago.
Yeah.
But, or the other reason is the other avenue is, like I stated, it can be dedicated to a project that benefits that district footprint.
Right. That's what I
So-
would suggest.
I'll take a look at that information, but
It's
again,
not
in my
much, yeah.
search of all the county, in talking to county departments, there is no record still in possession that shows those assessments.
Yeah. It's a detective thing.
Yeah, but also records do get destroyed after a certain period of time
Right.
after the retention period, so it's possible that they're not there. And I've checked with several locations, and we'll do a more diligent search, you know, if there's to be a review, but at this point, I don't know.
Thank you Supervisor Rasmussen. I appreciate that. That was a complete report, and it brings up some memories when I joined this board as a vice chair when Rhonda was the chair. She spoke often about the Water Conservation District and what meetings or what they were doing, and she chaired this committee too. I never got the complete thing, but I think Scott remembers those days as well. And so this is really an enlightenment to this board. I appreciate bringing this up there. I was wondering, if Mr. Nichols, do you have any comments or information you want to give us on this?
I can say a few things. Briefly, Tom Nickel, Scotts Valley Water Conservation District. Briefly, my understanding was that this conservation district was created to monitor the aquifer mostly, and to make sure that there was an understanding with Lakeport, the city of Lakeport, that they were not allowed to pump more than 714 acre feet of water out of this aquifer. Okay, as you well know, Lakeport gets some of its water out of the lake and some of it out of Scotts Creek wells, which is in our aquifer. And there's some caveats to when they can take more, but what ends up happening is when they can't purify the water coming out of the lake, then they take water out of Scotts Creek aquifer. I personally I've never monitored their calculation system or anything. We're on the honor system that they are only taking that amount of water when they need to. But if I understood correctly, the state of California now is saying that cities because we need to have more housing, they're going to be allowed to build more low-cost housing. So that being the case, for instance, there's a subdivision going in behind the Chevrolet dealership. It was started years ago and the guy abandoned it for a while. Now he's back doing it again. But anyway, what I'm saying is, if there's a mandate that let's say Lakeport is allowed to build more residential housing for low cost, we're going to, anyway, the long and the short of it is, they could increase the housing in this city, which would affect our water. And it would they would want to take more than 714 acre feet of water when we have no authority to stop them. There's already cities in California where they were mandated to put in low-cost housing, and they said, well, we don't have the infrastructure, and the state of California said, we don't care. That's the law, so do it. So I'm kind of baffled, because I'm wondering if this conservation district isn't going to have any teeth if that happens. I think this gentleman is going to build another 80 homes in back of Chevy dealership there. And what's really interesting to me, we're all supposed to be conserving water, yet the apartment complexes on Martin Street, there's 2 of them there, they have 1 meter for each of those complexes. Individual people do not have their own water meter.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's right. So they don't have an individual meter for every one of those units. Just one general meter. Now, if they keep doing this, I don't know how we can conserve water. Because there's going to be families there that are larger. You might have an elderly couple in one apartment and a family of 8 in another one. And how are you going to monitor how much use of water there is? Some years ago, the city of Lakeport was designating how many gallons a day you were allowed to use amongst other cities. And so I can't see how they can monitor that. And if they keep putting these apartment buildings in there, and there's one big one in Kelseyville right now, it's like 3 stories tall. I mean, there's like hundreds of units in there. So that concerns me. That basically what I'm saying is I just don't think we have any clout or any teeth anymore into protecting our water aquifer. If the city of Lakeport decides to pump more water, they will find a way to do it. So anyway, that's my feelings about this conservation district.
Well, Tom, it sounds like you're saying that the state is given control or the blessing and the cities are able to use it. And I guess my thoughts are, you bring up some concerns that we can align with. Where do we get water when we're adding more structures or more homes? I guess my question might be is, one, is this something we need to ask the city and also the Board of Supervisors to look at as a reasonable thing of what can we do to make this work? And secondly, do you feel that the Water Conservation District, you sound confused whether it should stay in motion or it should be a lapse,
Well,
depending of the control, what you have on
in light
it?
of the fact that the state of California is now saying that you have to put in infrastructure for low-cost housing, and we don't care if you have the water or anything, or the sewer capacity, they don't care. It's in black and white. You're gonna build X amount of units in this town, and that's it. Whether or not you can handle it or not. That's my understanding of what the state of California is doing.
But I would think that local jurisdictions could put a mandate on the subdivider that you're gonna have to come up with the water and the infrastructure.
Well, you know, here's the interesting thing too. When I went to the meetings when they were discussing this subdivision, and a number of us wanted the city to put in the gray water or the recycled water out of the sewer system. We wanted them to at least put that pipeline in the ground while they're digging the trenches for everything else. And the city turned around and said, no, you don't have to do that. I mean, my understanding is this sewer system in Lakeport doesn't have the capacity to treat the water. The tertiary, there's a tertiary formula where they can't treat so much water, so they don't do it. So the point is, until we get a sewer treatment plant that can treat it and we can reuse it for landscaping, parks, whatever, we're not going to do it. But that's how negative the city of Lakeport was. The guy even said, I'll put it in. I just won't, we have nothing to hook it up to, but I'll just have it in the ground in case we do. But the city of Lakeport nixed that for, I don't know why. But anyway, I just don't see anybody taking water seriously. You know, we're discussing about Lake Pillsbury. They're going to want to break that dam down. I mean, what kind of stupidity is that? Yeah. We need reservoirs to hold back water for fighting fires. And years ago, there was a proposal. The Army Corps of Engineers had a dam built on Scotts Creek on paper, and they wanted to put it in. And the county, if I understood, Sky, am I correct? Sky, the county bought the property, right?
My understanding, yeah.
Yeah, they bought the
Well, I don't know
property.
the county exactly, but the people sold the property and then they were giving it back.
Yeah, so anyway, they had the opportunity to build a dam there and a reservoir that would immensely help with our water issues with Lakeport and elsewhere. And there would be a flow of water coming out. I don't want to get away from this, but I mean, a dam with water there running into the creek every year in the summertime would help the hitch that we're trying to protect. But again, another person nixed, my understanding is another person nixed that program or that plan, and it fell through, and then we ended up with no dam. Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he was governor, he had a he put together a committee and he wanted to, and I like this idea, he put a committee together to see if we could find places in California where we could put small reservoirs. Not try to build Shasta dams or Oroville's or anything like that, but building small reservoirs that could help communities individually and take the strain off of our other water sources. And that fell through. It just seems like nobody takes water seriously.
Mother Nature does.
Yeah. Well, anyway, to sum it up is, I don't know if keeping a water conservation district is beneficial if the state's going to just come along and just say, sorry, we're going to take what water we want and too bad. You know?
Yeah.
That's the way things are going in California with the administration here.
Does Rhonda feel the same as you, kind of?
You know, I can't honestly say, I don't recall having that discussion with her. So I can't say, but she's a very logical woman. I would think that she would probably agree with that assessment.
Okay.
That we don't have the clout to protect our water here. And she was very disillusioned that she wasn't getting any help and support. That was one of the reasons why she quit, I believe. But anyway, that's all I can come up with right now.
Well, thank you, Mr. Nichols. I appreciate that input.
Question, please.
Oh, one question, Tom.
Tom? This 714 acre feet agreement thing, how contractual or formal did that get? Was it pretty just an informal thing, or was there actually a contract created between the district and Lakeport? Have you ever seen any paperwork on that?
I have to go back and look that up, but I do believe I've seen it in print.
Mm-hmm. You remember about what year it was, too?
No.
Okay.
But, and I understand this too, is that the state of California mandated that there be a water conservation district in every county.
Mm-hmm.
So it may have been formed because of that too, not necessarily the landowners out here. Anyway.
The big question is, does it have any legal teeth or not?
Well, see, that's the thing. This $25,000, I understood, was to pay for lawyers in case Lakeport violated that agreement.
So
Hell, back in those days, $25 wouldn't get you in the door of a lawyer's office.
Yeah.
Anyway, so those funds were put together, my understanding was to defend our water legally, but...
Well, that sounds like they assumed there was some level of teeth in whatever kind of agreement they crafted, so I think it'd be really good for us to review that if that's
Yeah, but like I said,
appropriate.
the state of California is just too powerful. They're gonna just roll over us, you know?
Well, I'm more concerned about the relationship of the local people with Lakeport, relative to what I'm asking. Yeah.
Can I defer to something else right now regarding the Cow Mountain? Is it possible for me to make a statement about that?
We'll be under 3 minutes.
Yeah, it'll be
Can
quick.
I suggest that BLM is coming up on?
Oh, yeah, BLM,
That is as Mark.
Okay.
let's call you back up for
I'll
that.
wait, because that BLM has something to do.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you.
And Margot, we recognize you now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairs. Margot Kambara, General Plan Advisory Committee Representative. I can't advise you on whether to continue with the water district, but you have some parallel actions available to you as a council. And also, many of you are also on the local area plan advisory committee. And as that advisory committee, you can have an influence on the local area plan for the unincorporated portions of Lake County. So that also includes housing, and that has been a main push of the general plan. Where are we going to find places, appropriate places for housing, low-income housing, affordable housing, period. So that is something that we as a community can take a closer look at and really scrutinize where does it make sense to put this housing, and also is it sustainable? Where is the water going to come from? So I suggest that we, right now, while community development and the contractor are taking a break from general plan and local area plan work, that we, community members, put on our thinking caps and take a look at the local area plan maps and do some proactive action in saying, where does it make sense to have that housing? Now, the complication would be City of Lakeport is not in our general plan, but there is coordination on the general plan between the City of Lakeport and the county. So it is complicated.
Well, one addendum might be, where's the water come from for the county to be looking at these consideration of designating land use? Can the water sustain it? I know in Riverside, every time in certain areas when we had a new subdivision go in there, the subdivider paid for the fire station, the fire equipment, and I went to the board of supervisors to staff it. So it's the same thing here. We need to look at if we're going to grow, and when you talk about low cost, well, how does that sustain the cost of water? Yeah.
And I'd like to add a footnote. Another tool available to you as the source of the water that would be used by other community members would be the California Environmental Quality Act, because new developments have to go through, it's called CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act, that protects the community that exists there and whether they're going to be harmed by the new change or new development. So that also means your access to water, whether it be for fire prevention or for sustenance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that input. Yes.
Tom Lacey, this will just be really brief. There's a parallel here between what was mentioned by Tom here and what Margot mentioned, what's going on in South County with Gwinnett and with water. So CEQA does have a large role. I think there is there's plenty of room to defend your water if that is what you choose to do. So and they're using CEQA as a way to make sure that their rights are protected. So, thank you.
Thank you. Sky?
So Sky Hoyt, so I just want to reemphasize to people, I'm not sure that everybody's in tune with why the water in Scotts Valley is so important to agricultural production. Right now we look at it, I mean, this conservation district, I think it was called, it was formed when pears were the big thing, and pretty much every flat piece of land in Scotts Valley had pear trees on it. Well, that time has passed now. We're sort of short on crops that could use that water. But I think it's important that people understand that it's not just the quantity of water in Scotts Valley, it's the quality of the water. We have water here that is exceptionally good quality for irrigation. And I can tell you, I farmed in Big Valley, and we used a difficult water. Most of the water in Big Valley is difficult for irrigation because it has a high level of bicarbonates. When you irrigate with bicarbonate water, your soil pH tends to drift towards alkaline, so it's a constant battle. People say, oh, and usually the crops that are selected in Big Valley are based on their tolerance of alkalinity. In Scotts Valley, we don't have that issue. We have almost no alkalinity in the water. So there's a quality of the water that's super important. So to me, the preservation of the ability to irrigate in Scotts Valley is super important to the preservation of agriculture long term. And I always say that the agricultural preservation, you need to think in very long time periods. I usually advocate 200 years. People think that's ridiculous. So I compromise at 100 years. So even though there may not be a crop right now that's demanding that water, the ability to have that water to irrigate, this water is super precious, not just because of the quantity, but because of the quality. And even though we looked down at my neighbors with their greenhouses down there, one of the reasons those things are there is because of the quality of the water. I'm not acquainted with them, but I can just tell you that the quality is precious in Scotts Valley. And so it's related to agricultural preservation.
Thank you. Mr. Nichols.
Tom Nickel. I'd just like to add some kind of important little notes. It's my understanding that the pear farmers came into Scotts Valley maybe 100 years ago, and they never watered their pears until I think 1950s or so, because they wanted to increase the size of their crops. So then they started putting water on it. So that was one of the reasons why they were pumping water out of our aquifer. And then here's another interesting note. Hidden Valley Lake, that golf course there, is watered solely by reclaimed sewage water.
I know
And
where they put that in
if they
there.
can do that, I don't know why Lakeport can't do it, but the answer I always get when I bring it up was, well, I've never seen this in writing, but this is what was verbally told to me. If there's so many sewer hookups in a city, they have to increase their capacity, their sewage capacity, and the cleanup of that sewage water. So that's what's maybe holding back the city of Lakeport and a few other developments in this county. There's another one that just got built over by Century Market. 1 meter for the whole unit. There's 2 units, big units, and it's just 1 meter for each one of them. The rest of it, and basically those people pay a monthly fee for garbage and water, and it doesn't matter how much water they use. It's just a flat water and garbage. This is not a way to conserve our natural resource. But anyway, I don't want to sound negative, but
I understand your concern, though. Well, you know, I got to comment again. Remember, this council here is, we are concerned about representing the citizens of this Scotts Valley area. And there's a lot of good input on this particular subject. All we can do is try to gather the information and share it with Brad for guidance of where we need to go with this, or is there a solution? Is there some way we can work it out? But there's been a real good history lesson here, and Brad, appreciate all your research on the history of what you prepared here on the water district, because I think it gave this panel a very good understanding where we stand now. But I see points from everybody here. It's just finding is there a compromise, is there a way to work it out, or is there some type of idea that we can resolve this? And I think this is something we need to move on here and bring this at the end of the thing, whether we want to bring this back up on the agenda for future meetings. So with that, I'm going to move on to the, and thank you everybody for your input, update on the RCD tanks. According to Cornelia, that has gone kabunk, right?
Well, she emailed me and said that there are other venues or opportunities that might come up, but the one that they came here to discuss with us is no longer on their table.
And one other option I would say is consider a mobile water tender, 2,000 gallon, the thing the fire department can run. There's other options, but let's come back to that when we have more time. Let's move on to 3, discussion building more of a relationship with BLM, Bureau of Land Management, and preservation on wildfire and watershed issues. Jared, did you have anything to add on that?
Well, we have a new head of fire for BLM, Dave Dolezal, who seems to be very proactive. He's been bounced around with budget stuff, but it looks like they're not losing any staff. Might be a really good time to invite him for a presentation to get a direct report on, you know, what plans they have for the Scotts Creek watershed. You you know, the 18 fire burnt most of it, but we're back to major fuel load again, and a few more years we'll be back to the same levels of fire risk we've had for the 81 fire and the 2018 fire. So I think it'd be real good to get him to come and update us on whether they're going to do any maintenance plan on the big fire break that parallels Scotts Valley like they used to. It's going to be pretty much grown over and ineffective also. It got re-bulldozed during the 2018 fire. It was masticated and maintained by BLM up to, I don't know, 15 or 16, something like that. And then the 18 fire went over it, but we're going to lose that whole fire break here in the next few years. One of the really big values of a fire break like that isn't just, you know, trying to cool down the monster when it comes over the hill. It gives you control line for them to control burn up to safely and much more aggressively, and actually create a way bigger fire break than just the bulldozed or masticated ones they use. So getting Dave to tell us where they're at, and, you know, pushing and encouraging on them to do work they've done previously, I think the timing is good to do that. He's kind of settled into the job now and seems to be good to work with.
Well, I like that. And certainly, I think that's something we should do. My focus would be as far as what are they doing if they're going to be able to maintain and let fuel break and also burn on it in the spring to widen it out would be huge. We wouldn't have these a lot of these fires burning over from Mendocino County into us if we put effort into that. I can go on to irritation of fuel breaks I've maintained and backfiring I did that stopped a lot of fires, but I'm not going to go there. But I think this would be a good future speaker to have this new BLM guy introduce himself. Any other comment?
Well, we should just ask you to contact him and put him on the agenda as soon as he's available.
Yeah.
And let me know, and so we can let her know, so
Yeah.
we can do that. Okay, that'd be great. Any other comment? I think, Tom, you had a comment about BLM?
Yeah,
Why don't you come up to the mic, would you please? The lectern. Thank you.
Well, we can also ask, if you want to ask David, right?
Yeah.
If he knows anything about Cow Mountain and the recreational area up there.
Tom Nickel. The problem I have with BLM, this county is trying to, the Middle Creek Restoration Project is trying to remove the sediment loading or the nutrient loading into this lake. And we're progressing to do that. It's slow because there's a couple of landowners up there that don't want to sell their property. But the long and the short of it is, why are we trying to clean up the water that's going into this lake if motorcycle riders up in Cow Mountain are putting the nutrients right back into the streams and river and Scotts Creek? As Sky mentioned, in the wintertime, all you have to do is take a look in there, and it's chocolate milk going down the river. And so it just seems dumb to sit there and put all this money into the Middle Creek Restoration Project if you're not going to solve the problem where it starts. And Middle Creek and Scotts Creek, I believe, are the largest nutrient loading rivers that go into this lake. And I've seen, maybe you have also, I've seen satellite photography where we have satellites that can differentiate different colors which represent different materials. This whole upper part of the lake in the wintertime is just inundated. It's like 3/4 of this lake is just full of nutrient loading. So I just think that's a waste of time to do that up there at Middle Creek if you're not going to solve it up here. Now, my understanding is that BLM charges permit fees for you to go ride your motorcycle up there. So it's a money-making situation for them. You know, and if you know anything about Pile Road, if you look in the wintertime there's creeks coming off of that hillside up there that are full of mud. They're chocolate too. And the county doesn't want to do anything about it. And I've spoke to supervisors, And they said, well, there's nothing we can do about it because those property owners have to fence their property and put up no trespassing signs, or we can't do anything. So the problem just continues. I mean, there was times when they were getting motorcycle riders from Southern California up there riding around up there, and they've just scarred up that mountainside up there, something awful. Now, I understand the people up there in Pile Road are starting to get a little ticked off, and they're starting to do something about it. And it's been brought up in the Upper Lake, lost for words.
Town hall meeting or
Yeah,
whatever?
the advisory committee
Yeah.
up there in Upper Lake, they're bringing this to the attention of Mr. Crandall, I believe. But anyway, I think motorcycles and ATVs running around on these mountainsides is not helping this lake. That's all I got to say.
Thank you for that input. This may be something we could
Yeah,
let them know about that too.
actually, it might be good, there's one person who's in charge of all the off-road vehicle stuff over there. I don't know whether we'll get them the same meeting, but I would love to have them here too. And they have a formal, erosion remediation program. They have settling ponds. They have a major system out there in the BLM land that's supposed to be collecting a lot of this, results from the off-road vehicle thing. The big question is it effective and adequate? And then secondly, near the confluence of South Fork of Scotch Creek and the main branch, there's huge erosion coming off of what used to be called the Taft Ranch there. There was old walnut orchards along Scotch Creek there for about 1/8 of a mile. And those banks have cut back and put just massive yardages of erosion in. That should be something else that we should corner BLM on and see what the status of that is, because I think there's been a lot of years where it's probably put 20 times more silt into Scotch Creek than the off-road vehicle thing. I haven't been up there and actually looked at it for years and years, and my question is it still putting huge amounts in under certain conditions? So
I didn't hear what you said about where. Where is that?
it's just upstream from the confluence of the South Fork of Scotch Creek and the main branch. There was an old ranch and walnut orchards along the creek there. There was about a 15 or 20 foot high cut bank there that was just moving back into the side of the hill there with, huge yardages of dirt have gone into Scotch Creek over the years for that. I remember it back in the 60s and 70s as being really bad. So whether it still is, it would be great for us to pin BLM down on and say, are they addressing that? Is it still a huge issue? And are they actually walking their talk on collecting, sediment from the off-road area or not?
Oh, one of the things that the Forest Service and BLM are responsible to do is to hold meetings of their plans and have citizens' approval. This is the citizens' lands, these federal lands, recreational plans. And so when we have these people like this, if we could fill this room up with people to let them know this community is serious about this situation, and invite your friends to come in here. And when we have these speakers coming in here, it shows the sincerity of this community that something really needs to be attended to and corrected. So it's just a thought. We need to.
You should repeat that 3 more times.
Thank you. All right, let's move on here. Let's go to I'm going to invite Supervisor Rassman up here to talk about the Sonoma Clean Power feasibility study.
I think all of us here should invite each neighbor.
Yeah, I tried to.
I couldn't hear you, Cornelia.
I said everyone who's here today should at least bring 2 more neighbors next meeting.
Okay. I don't have any more. I know I missed the last meeting. I sent a little blip into Cornelia, and I later watched your meeting online, and I know Tom gave a great recap of the Sonoma Clean Power. There's really no further information other than hopefully within the next 4 months or so, we'll get a report back from Sonoma Clean Power that we can look at to see if it's even feasible for us to to use them in Lake County. So
Yeah.
really no more information right now.
I just wanted to make sure you had the opportunity.
Yeah, so we can keep it on the agenda for when we get a report back, to bring that back to this council. We did also have a recent presentation from the Northern Rural Energy Network. And what they do is they're working with, through our area planning council, to provide energy efficiency kits to PG&E customers in Lake County. They're also partnered with other counties throughout Northern California, but basically what they do is they give out energy kits with items that can help be more energy efficient. They'll also do energy reviews of homes, but they would be interested in coming here to do a presentation. So that's why I'm bringing it up. If the council's interested in me trying to get them on the agenda for a future meeting.
Sounds good. Is that the person who's coming to the farmer's market tomorrow?
Coming to the way?
Farmer's market?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
so she's going to be handing out all this at the farmer's market tomorrow. So
Yeah,
everybody should go to see what's, if a teaser about what's coming.
yeah, or we can bring her here too.
Yeah.
Next report is for the next meeting. I have confirmed our county council to be here to do Brown Act training for this board. So,
We're so
It's-
good at it.
well, it's time to refresh throughout our municipal councils and other advisory boards. So I please put them on the agenda.
I'm sure we're gonna have a big audience for
Yeah.
that.
We're all gonna,
And if you need assistance getting hold with BLM, sometimes it's challenging.
Yeah.
But I've got a couple of BLM issues I've been working on and working through our congressman's representative, Luca Moretti. He's got a direct connect to all the BLM and can assist us in getting those things set up.
yes.
So
Brad, for the next meeting, how much time do you want for that, Brown
30
Act?
minutes,
30 minutes?
yes,
So if we put in the.
3 minutes. I
30
heard.
minutes. And that's the only report I have tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we need to look at, if we have the BLM person come and then
Well,
Brad's presentation, we're normally running from 5 to 7, so we're taking, that'd be half of our time, so we need to look at that.
that's fine. We also invited Department of Public Works. So depends on if BLM's coming or not.
It's getting kind of
Yeah.
stacked.
Yeah, so we may put BLM off to the following meeting.
Oh, no, we can put Department of Public Works off too.
All right, whatever, we need to
Yeah.
discuss that at the end of the meeting. So let's move on. Thank you, Brad, for that information. Item E, observations regarding groundwater, fire mitigation, and Scotts Valley infrastructure. Not hearing anything, we'll move on.
Nothing new, except for the Neighbor Fest meeting, party. Spread the word, July 13th,
Is that a Friday?
party. It's a party.
Is it a Friday, 13th?
Oh, Sunday, I'm sorry. It's always on a Sunday.
I know, I'm just teasing.
Yeah. It's on a Sunday because I have to do the farmer's markets on a Saturday.
All right, let's move on to item F, council member roundtable and quick updates, and let's talk about the calendar items first. So for the next meeting, we're going to have 30 minutes for the Brown Act presentation. What does this council want to do?
No, we're still under F, not G.
F, that's what I said.
Yeah, but
Oh,
you're talking about.
calendar items, I'm sorry, you're right. All right, so let's do a quick roundtable or quick updates or calendar items. Jody, anything?
Nope, don't have anything except for Neighbor Fest.
Okay, Joel,
No, thank you.
Jarrett,
No.
Cornelia?
Neighbor Fest.
Okay, and I see Tom's come back up. Do you have something to offer?
I didn't know where to put this, but I promised to get back with you on a question.
Yeah,
So I figured it'd be part of a quick update.
sure.
So I did look at those parcels around the airport, and the one that is Esther Formula. First, I have to apologize. The road or the airstrip is actually at a 45-degree angle. It goes It goes
Right.
northwest, southeast. So the Esther Farms actually is south of the airport, and there are 3 small parcels there, including the Esther Farms, that is zone PDC, which the major zoning is PDC, which is Planned Development Commercial, which I think is like light industrial or something. And then it's also a DR, which is Design Review, and then it's an AA, which means it's on the airport access. And then the rest of the parcels there, all the ones along Highland Springs Road, are agricultural in nature. Some of them are actually agricultural preserve. And it's also a scenic byway. Also, many of them are in waterway and also flood fringe. But the only ones that were industrial were the ones right around Esther Farms. I hope that answers that question.
Well, I hope they have enough water to support them.
Well, that's going to be a very good question because they don't have the infrastructure for it right now.
What is Esther Farms?
Well, once upon a time, it was a shower door thing, as you heard,
yeah.
and then it got a cannabis permit, and it was doing processing
Right. I
of
remember
cannabis.
seeing
People
that.
would bring their product to there, and it would be processed, and that folded, and now there is an active or a permit going through the process for them to Esther Formula. One of the things they have on their website is to make like soluble paper that you can ingest that would have the CBD and all those pot chemicals on it. And so they're looking to get a permit for that. But right now, that's what I drove by there a week or 2 ago, and we really didn't see much activity.
Yeah, I haven't seen any either.
All right, but it's in the process of changing use.
I just toured that factory. Right now, it's what they're permitted to, under a food permit, they're making vitamins and supplements right now. They have a major use permit for another expansion, 30,000 more feet of the warehouse, which would include the CBD type stuff if they're permitted for that. But right now, they're already in operation for, basically, it's a film strip soluble vitamin supplement that they're marketing and manufacturing.
Is it safe?
Okay, well, thank you. Let's move on to item,
CBD?
yeah,
CBD.
yeah. Let's move on to item G. Next meeting, we do have the 30-minute Brown Act requirement. What do we want, BLM, or do we want water resources, or what do we want to, what's
I think
the
that-
priorities here?
I think it's harder to get BLM than Department of Public Works. So maybe you can see if he's available real soon, and then I will contact Department of Public Works to see how they are.
Okay, I can do that right away.
So I would ask that if this, on this committee, if we could have the minutes within 2 weeks prepared, and then immediately got over there to, for the agenda to be considered
Yeah.
off that minute, so
Well,
let's put.
the most important is just the agenda items.
Yeah,
The minutes can wait.
I know that, but we need the minutes for the, to look at the board issues. Let's see, G. So any other discussion on the next meeting from anybody? Oh, here comes Margot.
Because I care. For your consideration, 2 items. If you would like to do something that some of the other municipal area councils do, and that is to take a look at the summary of projects that are proposed for your area. So I would suggest taking a look at permits that are in process or will soon be in process for projects in the Scotts Valley area. For example, there is one on Eichhoff Road, the Lake County, hang on, Glamping Retreat that is in pre-application. There is also Scotts Valley Band of Pomo Indians Community Care Facility that is on Scotts Valley Road. There is Disney Boat Rentals on 2200 Lakeshore Boulevard, Lakeport. That's within your local area planning area. So anyway, it's always, well, I won't say always, I think it's helpful to know what the proposed projects are for your area so you can be aware of what's planned or what's being considered, so you can have input and raise concerns and have them addressed. And then secondly, as I spoke to you earlier today, was if you are interested in submitting a letter of support, as I said, on those parcels that are proposed for rezoning, I would be delighted to draft something and work with any of your committee members who are also so inclined.
What's the due date on that letter? Do you know?
No due date that I know of.
Does this council want to do that, support that letter?
I think we could talk about it at the next meeting.
Okay. So with that, thank you, Margo.
Thank you.
Appreciate bringing that to our attention.
Where do you find the information for the permits in process?
That is an excellent question. So,
I know where to find it.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell
And
me
I-
then.
The ones that you mentioned, I monitor it, and when it's something that's not like 2 and 3 years old already, I bring it up. So
Excellent.
what you just mentioned is totally new, so I didn't have time to think about it.
Oh, very good. But Jody, to answer your question earlier, you were asking about ester formula.
Yes.
That's the same question that I asked, and I could not find information to confirm that it's safe. What worried me is on the application, the applicant said, we are looking forward to doing work here in Lake County. This is going to be their foothold in the U.S. They're based in Korea, and they think they're going to have an easier time with our FDA than the regulator in Korea. And that just made me worry.
Right,
Yeah.
yes. So, but
Sure.
looking for these permits, where did you find the one, like a one on ICOF or?
Okay, so I got this. It's a spreadsheet from the planning division, Lake County Planning Division.
Okay.
I can send
Thank
you a
you.
link. It's
Okay.
public. Yeah.
Thank you, Margo. Okay, it is now
Your
6:51, so we're
before
still
we-
putting on.
any
Is there anything else for the next meeting from any of the other members? Okay, Margo, thank you for those items of consideration. So we have our focus on contacting the speakers, knowing we're going to get a 30-minute presentation on the Brown Act and focus on that, and a due date for minutes and the agenda working on there. If there is not any other items to be discussed, for the good of the order, the next meeting is June 16th here at 5 p.m., June 16th. And with that,
It's always the third Monday.
yes, I adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody, for being here, showing your interest and your support.
We have 7 more minutes.
That's good.
I know, how'd we get through?